Horror remakes, they're a gamble. Sometimes you get The Fly, sometimes you get The Thing, other times you get One Missed Call, The Fog, Black Christmas, and the dreaded A Nightmare on Elm Street. Let's get into it. Here's the thing. I don't hate horror remakes. I get the need for them even. I get why we would have new audiences, new properties, new ideas, new techniques, like reasons to have these movies coexist and expose more people to such beloved properties. However, for some reason, they just whitewash our favorite characters. They use CGI over some of our favorite practical effects. They replace scores sometimes. They just totally shit the bed, and we're left with something that is just abysmal and has nothing to do with the original concept. So I think that I'm willing to watch some, because one of my favorites is actually Night of the Living Dead 1990. I didn't know that Night of the Living Dead exists. I'm on a tangent. We're talking about good remakes right now. Let's just move right on. How about number one as the worst one? Okay? We are talking about a film from 2005 that is not directed by John Carpenter, that is one of the worst horror remakes of all time. Now, most of these films, ironically enough, are not streaming on any sort of free service, so you actually have to pay money for a lot of these. This one right here, I believe, is on Tubi, and it's called The Fog. And listen, John Carpenter proved you don't need to show everything to scare people, right? You don't need to show anything. The remake completely loses this idea. It ignores everything, and instead of creepy atmosphere and lingering dread, it gives us CGI ghosts that look like they came out of a PlayStation 2 cutscene. That's a problem for fans of The Fog like me. We lose the classic ghost story. We lose everything that made that I fucking hate it. Next, from 2015, we are talking about a film that is a remake of Tobe Hooper's masterpiece from the early 80s. We're talking about Poltergeist. Now, this is one that I seen in the theater, similar to The Fog. I didn't even want to get into that because I was so irritated at The Fog. We're talking about Poltergeist, Sam Rockwell. This remake confuses what made the first one great. It thinks that bigger is better, and that is not the case with Poltergeist. Poltergeist has heart, not this one. This has nothing. More CGI, more chaos will equal a better movie, right? Fucking bullshit. No. You actually cared about the family in the 1982 version. You did. You just did. Here they're just waiting around for the next special effect. It is soulless. It is completely, it's not just terrible, it's just forgettable. And if anything, a film that is forgettable is boring, which, fuck this movie. The following remake takes place in 2010. I should probably save this one for last because I hate it the most, but you know, I feel like if we're talking about remakes, we should probably go in reverse order. You know what I'm saying? This is probably my favorite horror franchise next to Friday the 13th, The Evil Dead, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Actually, I like quite a few horror franchises, and even Hellraiser for probably 3 or 4 movies. I hate this remake with a passion. We are talking about, of course, A Nightmare on Elm Street. Should we just cut there? Should we cut there? We're going to do just a play-by-play, just a complete remake of the original, scene by horrible, absolutely abysmal. And it's not even Jackie Earle Haley's. It's not his fault that this movie is that bad. This movie is trash. The dark humor, gone, shredded, with this weird kind of matte filter that's just placed over everything. The diner scene is absolutely horrific. Everything feels complete. Everything is generic about this movie. This movie spends so much time trying to be gritty that it forgets to ever be fun. This movie sucks. This movie took the things that made Freddy Krueger scary and just stripped it out. Oh, maybe he's not this child murderer thing, right? No, maybe it's not his fault. I think that Jackie, he does a damn good job playing him, and it's kind of cool to see another take on this. If everything else wasn't so uninspired, so limp, and so completely devoid of anything fucking entertaining. Next, from 2006. Now I know that there's a lot of hate and a lot of heat on Nicolas Cage. I actually love old Nick, okay? But I don't love this movie. The original is one of the best 70s cult horror films of all time. We are talking about 2006's The Wicker Man. Now, listen, this is not remembered as a horror movie. This is remembered as a meme. This movie sucks, dude. You know in Wayne's World where he's holding up the cue card and says, this movie blows donkeys. This movie blows goats. We have proof. That's The Wicker Man. I watched this and this is a parody of a great folk horror film. What are we doing? Nicolas Cage is just running around punching people, screaming about bees, and unintentionally making some sort of like one of the funny... It's entertaining. Okay, I'll give it that. It's just not for the reasons anyone intended. How about a remake of one of the greatest horror films of all time from 1998? How about a shot-by-shot, perfect feature film, right? In black and white. You know where I'm going with this? We're going to replace Anthony Perkins with Vince Vaughn. I love Vince, man. I love Vince Vaughn. But Psycho 98 is the definition of unnecessary, okay? I hate it. It's almost a complete shot-for-shot copy of Hitchcock's masterpiece. It has no soul. It takes one of the greatest horror films of all time and it brings nothing fresh to the table. It's actually just done worse. And it's boring. Like what's the point of making... Next, to be honest, there's only a few films that are just holiday essentials, right? That you just put on every season no matter what. And for whatever reason, we got things like Halloween and a couple from Dick Clark, not including The Christmas Story. We're talking about, of course, Black Christmas. And somebody thought it was a great idea to remake his film. A perfect slasher for the 70s, a just claustrophobic, catatonic, paranoid, intense film, man, that I just think is just gospel. And for whatever reason, they're like, yeah, we'll remake it and we'll make it suck. What was that, 2006? If we can't do that, right, fuck it, let's just make it again in 2019 and just completely ruin this film again. These remakes suck so the notes that I took, I just can't stand. You're taking one of the greatest slashers of all time and then you're trying to have these lifeless characters wander through. I guess they had some like famous people of the time when they came out. I remember watching 2006 just thinking it was just abysmal, man. Even as I just like graduated a few years earlier and I was like into some of these Platinum Dunes era movies because Texas Chainsaw was great. I thought Amity Horror was still pretty damn good. These Black Christmas films bear no tension whatsoever. It's unbelievable. Next. Now, we're talking about one of my favorite films from 1989, probably my favorite Stephen King novel of all time, probably one of my favorite supporting actors in Judd Crandall of all time. Zelda is probably one of the scariest things I'd ever seen as a young kid. I've got a couple of videos on one of my favorite horror movies of all time, which is Pet Sematary. Now, for whatever reason, someone thought we should remake this. And then we should make a prequel too, which we're going to follow the... Stupid. Anyway, from 2019, of course. Pet Sematary. Now, listen, there's a couple of good actors in this movie, okay? There is some interesting scenes with the little kids walking. There's some cool things that happen in the theater, and it's got like kind of a stupid Pet Sematary cover at the end that I just hated. This one hurts because there was so much fucking potential in Pet Sematary that the biggest twist was spoiled before the movie even came out. This had an emotional gut punch from Stephen King. Nothing really lands. I do love Lithgow, and I like the guy from I think there is some good acting in this film. I thought Zelda was just completely white. That was just pointless. I hated that stuff. Obviously, we changed some characters. This Pet Sematary movie is... I just cannot stand it. I've tried to watch this thing twice now, and I just cannot get into it, man. Pet Sematary is one of the greatest horror films of all time. I think one of the scariest, just nastiest movies, dude. And it's funny, and it's got Mary Lambert, and it just kicks fucking ass. And then we get this from 2019, and then we get a prequel. Just horrible. A Paramount Plus original. God awful. Do yourself a favor. Skip Pet Sematary. How about another black and white remake that we're talking about? A film that I think is just impeccable coming at you called The Haunting. We're going to go ahead and remake that. Is that 99 that this thing came out? We had Catherine Zeta-Jones, right? We had a bunch of big name actors in this film. I remember going to this thinking that the original black and white movie was actually really tense and actually really, really scary. And this movie just completely bored me to tears. Want to see some haunted furniture? Said no one ever. Horrible, dude. A beautifully haunted mansion. A classic story. Ghosts, whatever you needed was already set up perfectly, and you got all the money in the world to create these fucking stupid ass looking CGI fucking who's a what's it. I just could not stand. The house of this movie should be the star. That should be everything you hang your hat on. Every room could be haunted, okay? Imagine the late 90s and all the stuff that we could have done with The Haunting, and we just wasted it. We wasted such a it needs to be remade, probably. I'm for that. When there's such a remake that's so shitty, except for Black Christmas, I could see maybe remaking The Haunting with someone like James Wan, right? Someone like that. Let a French guy or some Argentinian guy take that thing and just make this nasty. The Haunting should have been great. Totally missed the mark. Now, let's talk about a film that from the 80s was a movie that I thought was just incredible. Had an incredible villain in Rutger Hauer, right? It had the dude from The Outsiders. It had a little bit of nastiness to it, and it was lost on physical media except for DVD for a long time until Second Sight came around. Then, in 2007, some yahoo decided to remake it. Of course, we're talking about The Hitcher. Now, listen, Sean Bean, great. Loved him in Lord of the Rings. He's been great in Silent Hill. He's good in a lot of films. But he's not Rutger Hauer. Not even by a little bit. This turns psychological tension and it gives it like some like springy All-American Rejects type of music, right? Like some emo pop, some pop punk stuff. And we got this car that's no longer like a muscle car. Now we got the new like stupid, man. Okay, it takes any psychological tension that the first one has and it turns it into an action thriller. Still got the pull apart scene. It was fine in the theater. I remember people kind of go, oh my god, that was intense. It's too polished, it's too predictable, and if the original made you really uncomfortable, well, the remake just wants to entertain you and it fails miserably. Next. Is there any reason to talk about things like Children of the Corn from 2023? How about Firestarter? How about the Carrie with Chloe, because she's so believable as someone who has no charisma? There's a ton of these films. Jacob's Ladder needed to be remade. Get the hell out of here, man. What are you talking about? Jacob's Ladder? No, I'm not talking about those. Cabin Fever? Cabin Fever needed that remake 2016 was absolutely horrible. Obviously, anytime you take a French extremity film like Martyrs from 2015 and you soften every blow and Americanize it, you take its balls, man. You take everything that made it good and you just completely neuter it and devoid it of any sort of tension and anything that made the first one great. Same thing you could say about Pulse, the American remake, not the Japanese one from 2006. That misses the loneliness and existentialness of the original. Is that a word? And it just gives you this bland, generic horror. Other things, One Missed Call goes down as one of the worst films of all time as well. Horror remakes especially. And then, of course, you've got When a Stranger Calls. Dude, you have some horrific horror remakes on this list. Now, that doesn't mean they're all bad. Man, I'm sweating. I apologize if we got to do like an over-the-top thing. We got to do a little Sly Stallone here, little Lincoln Hawk. Get in there, Big Daddy. We gotta flip the hat around and we got to try to bring this thing home. Let's talk about some great horror remakes. We already talked about Night of the Living Dead, 1990. Okay, we talked about The Fly. We could talk about The Blob. We could talk House on Haunted Hill, House of Wax. There was some good films that came out around this era. I even think The Hills Have Eyes, for as nasty and mean-spirited as it is still a pretty damn good horror film. Obviously, the Amityville Horror rocks. I thought Ryan Reynolds was absolutely intense and brutal and savage as hell in that film. I love Texas Chainsaw 03. I thought it had a killer soundtrack. I thought the documentary on that thing was unbelievable. There are a ton of great horror films. The Fly's in there, right? The Blob, The Thing. From Another World, we get The Thing. There are some incredible remakes. We probably should have talked about The Exorcist or any of the Halloween, like the Blumhouse trilogy. We could have talked about the Halloweens. Horrible, dude. Absolutely horrendous. And I'm not a huge fan of the Friday the 13th that came out. It's at 2000 and 2009, 2000. I've come around to it. I like the first third of that movie, and then it just bores me to pieces. But I think that compared to other ones, that is actually still a pretty good film. God tier, goated level, The Evil. Should we just do a whole video on the greatest horror remakes in this style? I already got the hat flipped around. Maybe that's coming next. However you found me, however you're doing out there, man, I hope you're doing real well. I'm going to see Blue Oyster Cult tomorrow. Go, God. Don't fear the burning for you. Dude, astronomy, it's going to rock. I cannot wait. So I'm going to come back probably Sunday, Monday with maybe we'll do horror remakes instead of these worst. We got to get the taste out of our fucking mouth at this point. What I was going to say, though, was this one right here. This one, this is how you do a horror film, and you just completely take the template, spin it on its ass, and fucking inject it with some real American horsepower. This thing rocks. Love you guys so much. Until next time, take great care. Cheers.